Hare Krishna, everybody. Great to be with you again after a week off. We're going to explore the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita today. And before we do, we have a couple of announcements from Kelly.
Haribo, thank you. So first announcement is if anyone wants to, after we close class tonight, we're going to offer candles to the altar and sing the Damodar Astakam all together. So if you want to move to your altar in your home and light a candle and sing at home, it could be really beautiful to do together. We're not going to do it on the recording, but so that's why I'm saying it. I just wanted to let you know now. We'd love to invite you to do that and no pressure. And that was number one. Then number two is on this Friday, for those that live in Vermont, we're having a kirtan, very special kirtan in our sweet goddess sister Kira's studio, Williston Hot Yoga. And that's at 7:45 on Friday night. And you can sign up through her website. And it is free, I believe. Right, Kira? Yep, she's nodding her head. So we're really excited to get to bring some bhakti to her magical space. So thank you for having us, Kira, for that. Yeah. Woo, woo. And then the third is Monday, this coming Monday. Well, two things just for awareness. Tomorrow's Ekadasi, if you practice Ekadasi. And then Monday is Govardhan Puja, which is a really big ecstatic holiday in the bhakti world where Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill with his pinky. So we're going to honor that, observe that a little on next Tuesday. Shamya Prasa is going to give a little briefing, a little teaching, a little sharing of some sort. And then if you have the ability to come in person in Vermont and you want to, you can. And we just decided we're going to share dessert prasad together and celebrate a little bit. So there's that. And then lastly is that tomorrow is the sweet appearance day of our dear friend Eileen. So just wanted to give her a little birthday shout out, and we're so happy that you're part of our community. Okay, and now I am done talking. Haribol.
Beautiful. Hare Krishna. So we'll start as we always do with a little bit of a kirtan. Kelly, you can go ahead with the Burlington crew.
Beautiful. So I'll stop talking and we can start singing. Haribol. Will you just keep your eyes peeled if anybody else joins? Shamya Prasa. Thank you. Okay. So let's come into our comfortable seats.
No, back.
Uh-oh. I'm going to mute Caitlin. I think Caitlin must be dog sitting. Okay, so come into your comfortable seat. And just take a moment to sit tall, to sit with a sense of inner dignity. To maybe shift and move and roll out your head, neck, shoulders, whatever needs to move. Any stuck energy, anything you're carrying from your day that might prevent you from being here, present. Take a deep breath in through your nose, fill up. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Start with our opening prayers. Take a deep breath in. chant. Let's chant with our full attention, with our full intention, infusing our voice with just as much love and devotion as we do as we offer a candle, as we offer our service. Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for that kirtan. Om Jnanatimirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Ancha kalpatarupyascha kripa santubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnav devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees, can fulfill the desires of everyone, and are oceans of mercy for the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. All right, everybody. Great to be with you again after a short break. And so, yeah, we're back with chapter 11 now. Chapter 11 is called the Universal Form. The Sanskrit for the title for the verse is Vishvarup Darshana Yoga. Vishvarup Darshana. Darshan means to see, to receive, and Vishvarup is the form of the universe. This is the how Arjuna connects to Krishna by being granted vision of the universe. It's connected to him, to Krishna. So, as I always like to do, I'd like to start with a little bit of reflection, how your practice went, anything that stood out that you realized from your Bhagavad Gita, anything you can connect. We'll take a couple of reflections, anything that you can connect to Bhagavad Gita from the last couple of weeks. Yeah, go ahead. It can also be things that you contributed on the WhatsApp thread, which was great, by the way. I read everyone's comments. Fantastic. Any reflections? Chapter 10 was about opulences, Krishna's opulences, and using that to spark remembrance.
I wanted to make a request. I don't know if she'll be open to it, but Erin asked me a really good question, and I believe she also asked you, Shamya. Erin, do you have any desire to ask that? Because I think this would be a really beneficial question.
Yeah, sure. Essentially, what I was asking was why Krishna focuses on, and I know the answer now, so the question kind of feels silly, but why Krishna focuses so much on all of the beautiful things that he offers, but the reality of the world is that there's so much destruction and disconnection and sadness and grief and just frankly awful things that happen in the world. And I was trying to understand why he focuses on all the good things when there's seems like a whole other side of this that isn't discussed.
Yeah. So we talked about that kind of offline, and it's a great question. So I'll just kind of share my perspectives for everyone else too. There's a few ways of looking at it, but the basic answer I kind of wanted to bring out for everybody is that the purpose of the last chapter, Vibhuti Yoga, Krishna bringing up these beautiful opulences, was in response to Arjuna's question, how can I see you and remember you and know you and not forget you? And the baseline is that people are already attracted to things. I mean, I kind of made that point that we're already little appreciators. We're all about appreciating. And so the chapter is about dovetailing our capacity to appreciate, kind of connecting that to Krishna and learning how to connect when we appreciate something about the world or some other person, to connecting it to appreciating Krishna. So since the whole point of Bhagavad Gita and of Krishna's answering Arjuna's question is to support bhakti, bhakti is based on appreciation. It's based on love. And it's a fact that Krishna is the source of everything. And there's kind of a greater philosophical question of how is Krishna the source of things that can be misused and so forth, and how is there bad things in the world? That's there. But in terms of the chapter, what Krishna is doing is he's tapping into our natural capacity for appreciation, which we're all kind of made of. We're always appreciating something. We're attracted to something. and he's turning that towards him. Because, you know, like somebody can be thinking about God all the time, but in a hateful way, right? And it's just no appreciation in that. That's not actually bhakti. So it's important to remember Krishna and never forget him. But the essence is actually so simple, it's easy to overlook. Actually, the essence is to remember, but with affection, with care, like to want good for another person. That's what we're actually essentially about. So bhakti naturally taps into the things that we're attracted to and spiritualizes them rather than focusing on negative things. I mean, there's some in that. There's some like, you know, don't do this, don't do that, because if you do these things, it'll degrade your consciousness kind of thing. And when your consciousness is degraded, then you can't remember me. That's important. But the path of bhakti is predominantly a very positive path. And when one is more and more attracted to Krishna anyway, they'll let go of things that aren't good. And they'll have answers to questions around things like, why does the world have ugly things in it? But just like when I give the analogy earlier, when the sun rises, you see everything. So when you become Krishna conscious, you become aware of other things as well. So Krishna is fostering Arjuna's Krishna consciousness by helping him be attracted to him through the things that he's naturally attracted to, the beauty of the world, the changing of the seasons, these things that any kind of like sensible person notices and is amazed by. Wow, the ocean, the sun, like that. So yeah, I guess that was my perspective. And hopefully that was useful for you. Yeah. Did we have any other reflections from the 10th chapter? For example, is there any moment in your day in the last couple of weeks when you saw something or experienced something in the world and deliberately connected it to Krishna, like Arjuna was being asked to do? And if so, what?
I'll go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shami Pras. Hi. And everybody, Hare Krishna. I was mountain biking with my son a couple Saturdays ago, and it was just a beautiful day. And we mountain biked to this lake, and I knew the days were ending of nice days. And it was a really kind of a hard bike ride, and we were riding with some friends. And as I was riding, first of all, I looked around and I thought, oh, this lake is so nice. And just thinking about our discussion on here. And then I started just chanting, and I forgot that because I haven't ridden much this summer, that if I just chant, it helps my riding so much more, or while I'm running, but especially biking. And so I just started chanting, and then it was just like lovely. The whole ride was just great, and the view was nice. And I just was very, very appreciative. And I brought it back to our discussion for chapter 10. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're able to integrate your bike riding experience to Krishna consciousness. Lovely. Yeah, he says in that chapter, I'm the ability in people. So the ability to ride a bike.
Harry Bull, going back to Aaron's question, it was kind of an interesting juxtaposition. I'm also reading a book by Mahatma Das, and he has a chapter called Balancing Taste and Sense Gratification. And in the chapter, he talks about like our material experiences and, you know, how obviously our taste in the material, you know, is not real happiness, but having, you know, the taste, like you said, gives us some sort of appreciation. And he makes a comment that said, like, I was looking for the line because it like just struck a chord when you were talking, that said, you know, if we see ourselves becoming more inclined and attracted to Krishna, you know, we're on the right track. And that's the taste we're trying to foster. If we find ourselves being more attracted and our taste is in something material, then we know that that's kind of putting it off balance. So like our taste or that appreciation of like the material, he says, is a useful meter on how we can monitor our advancement in Krishna consciousness. So I thought that that was an interesting kind of position to look at, like material experiences. How do we spiritualize the material? But it also can be a really good barometer, is like, okay, where are we finding that taste preference? And that can help us kind of balance, you know, our progress. I don't know if that is relevant, but I kind of struck a chord with me when I was hearing you speak.
Definitely. yeah, that's a good barometer that's given in the Bhakti scriptures as well. That over time, as we're practicing Krishna consciousness, Bhakti yoga, one of the practical ways to see how we're advancing is that we're losing taste for the drama of the material world and complications and the lower modes of nature and the things of the world in and of themselves, and we're increasing in taste for our bhakti practice. We like hearing about Krishna. We like hearing Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're having experiences in our japa. Though that's one of the metrics that's given, that you're doing it well, that you're taking right association and you're following the process well. That's going to happen over time. That's natural. Yeah. Thank you. Leanne has her hand up.
Able. I'm going to answer the question about how do you apply the chapter 10 throughout your day. So most of the time it's through a lot of different things, but recently it's been through cooking a lot more. So just when I'm chopping the vegetables, looking at the color, like really taking in that appreciation for how rich the color is, and also who I'm preparing the food for too as well in my household. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. There's a whole movement around like mindful eating, that people are not necessarily even like in spiritual circles, are just recognizing that if I eat my food like more mindfully, I actually enjoy it more and I don't overeat, and like, then I'm careful to eat things that are good for me, that my body's asking for. It just makes a lot more sense. That's actually just sattva, it's a mode of goodness, like just being really present with your experience instead of like, eating while you're texting, or like, eating while you're out like walking around doing other stuff. And so what to speak of, like you're saying, being present, but also cooking as an offering. Yeah, that really changes the cooking process. Is that just like if you have a special guest coming to your home and you're trying to do some nice thing for them, it's like you're thinking about what they like and you're thinking about how you're going to serve them before they come. That's the whole meditation while you're cooking the meal. Then that meal is going to be infused with that consciousness. This is why everyone always says, like, my mom's cooking or my grandparents' cooking is just so special. Not everyone in the world has the greatest chef for a mom or dad. It can't actually mathematically be true that everyone has a great chef, but they all cook with love, right? I know that was my experience. So there's this way in which that actually goes into the food, because our consciousness affects what we do, including cooking. So the process of cooking, when you're in that devotional consciousness, or anything when you're in that consciousness of like, this is for you, Krishna, really changes our experience of that activity. Thank you. Things they don't teach you on Iron Chef. Tanya.
Hi, thank you. The last few weeks has been really challenging. I've been thrown a lot of curveballs and things that weren't expected, and I've been really grabbing onto the concept of the Gita and Krishna, and trying to ask, what's the lesson in this, right? And because I could very easily, and past me, before Krishna, would live in despair, depression, or anger for a lot longer than I am now. And I'm not saying that I've made all 22 steps from depression to ecstasy yet, but I'm certainly working on those steps, and I'm noticing that I'm elevating faster when I really sit back and think, okay, what is the lesson here? What am I, like, instead of why is this happening to me? Why is this so unfair? What is the deal? I'm actually saying, okay, what's the lesson, and what do I need to think about to move to that next step of more peaceful balance and patience in the process. And over the weekend, I had to do it quickly, because my daughter needed my help, and I needed to get to a rung where I could service, serve her and bring her out of deep depression. So I had to do it quickly, and that only way that I could really do it was through Krishna, through this association, and through my beautiful sisters that helped me through it and everything. And I just wanted to mention that it's a process, and I'm going through it, but I can see huge differences in the way I'm processing these types of things, and accepting the fact that this is part of a bigger plan that Krishna has in mind.
Thank you. Just like Arjuna, and this is the proof. Arjuna was going through a massive life-shifting challenge that was shaking him to his core. And the whole Bhagavad Gita is the process of him realizing that he has Krishna on his side and what that means for him and taking shelter there. And we see he becomes transformed. Like in the last chapter, he was really ecstatically calling out to Krishna and asking to remember him. And he's becoming more and more powerful again in the face of all this challenge. And so your experience is that you're going through a lot, and you're taking shelter of the bhakti process and the bhakti practitioners and Krishna, and it's really transforming how you're seeing that, instead of just like it's happening to you, it's happening for you, and you're moving through it with Krishna. So congratulations. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a critical point in Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna is acknowledging actually what's happening here, who Krishna is and what that means. And because of that, he's getting these visions, these darshanas, the ability to see. And that's what this chapter has to do with. So we'll move into chapter 11, Vishvarup Darshana. Now, he says in verse 3, Evam etad yathat tvam atmanam parameshvara drashtamichamite rupam aishvaryam purushottama. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. So, like a little bit of context, like there are so many people over the millennia from different traditions they'll go into the woods, they'll go into the mountains, they'll go into caves, they'll be like yogis, and they'll kind of just like be with nature, and they'll try to see the divine. They'll try to approach the supreme person through that, and how he, she, them, they're present in nature, in the universe. And Arjuna, because of his devotional credit, his devotional capacity, he's actually seeing Krishna, as he says here, as you are in your original form. But I want to see the universe. I want to see how you pervade the universe. Because of his devotional credit, Krishna is going to reciprocate with that. Normally it takes like so much work, severe austerities, long time, meditation, solitude, celibacy, simplicity, lifetimes often, before you can glimpse how like there's a person behind this, universe and nature and the shifting seasons and everything. But Krishna, just like this, is going to reciprocate with his devotee. Text 5, Krishna says, My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds and thousands of varied, divine, and multicolored forms. So he listed in chapter 10 a few of his opulences that Arjuna could remember him by. Now he's actually going to give Arjuna the capacity to see them all at once. It's quite mind-blowing. If anybody's ever seen that old the Jimi Hendrix Experience album cover, where it's like Jimmy and a bunch of like forms of Jimmy like melting off into the distance, that's actually based on the iconography around this very moment that Krishna is showing. And I can probably pull up a picture towards the end and share it. You can see what I'm talking about. But Krishna is actually going to share like thousands and millions of forms at the same time. But it's so mind-blowing that Arjuna can't actually see it all at once. Krishna says here, verse 7, O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you want to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely in one place. And then verse 8, which I'll share. Natumang shakshase drashtam anena eva chakshusha divyang didamite chakshuf pashyame yogam aishvaram. But you cannot see with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Just like, I gave the point earlier in a Bhagavad Gita discussion. Sometimes people say, like, show me God. Krishna is basically making the point here is like, you can't see with your two little eyes, like, what is your 2020 vision or 2015 vision, if you're really lucky, going to show you about the divine. We can't even see, what's over the horizon. So you can't see with those little eyeballs of yours, the supreme, but Krishna can grant us the vision. It's actually a descending process, even just to see the universe as it is, as it's connected to Krishna all at once with all these different forms. That's not a normal thing. There's no telescope you can buy for that. There's no microscope you can do that it can resolve that vision, but Krishna can give it. And he gives it to his devotee here because Arjuna has asked for it. So what happens? Krishna displays his universal form. Text 10 to 11. So now there is quite an intense experience. This is a very mind-blowing experience for Arjuna. And there's a description here over several verses. I'll share a couple. 10 and 11. Aneka Vaktranayanam, Anekad Putidarshanam, Aneka Divya Bharanam, Divya Neko Tyatayutam, Divya Malyam Barataram, Divya Gantanulepanam, Sarvashcharamayam Devam, Anantam Vishvatomukam. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. So we see here that there is a huge influx of sense objects to Arjuna. I'm pulling up a nice picture here that I can share for you. 1 second. This is kind of like a picture says 1,000 words, point of the Bhagavad Gita. Can you see this? There's at the bottom, Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, and Arjuna is seeing, like in the sky, all these forms all at once. It's like a massive trip, actually. It's he has received the vision that you couldn't normally have to see this all at once, how Krishna is pervading the universe. So, continuing. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Text 16. Neka bahudara bhaktiranetram pashyami tvam sarvato nantarupam Nantang namatyam napunastavadim pashyami vishveshvara vishvarupa. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes expanded everywhere without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Although you are one, you are spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O great one, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. There's a list of a variety of different living entities praying to the Lord as they see this form, as Krishna is revealing it. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance, seeing thus your blazing, death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions, I am bewildered. So a couple points. One, we can see here why this is not something we can actually perceive with our regular senses. And that's why it's not something we necessarily even want to see with our regular senses. Arjuna had this curiosity because he's understood Krishna is everything. He's the source of everything. So he wants to see the universe is connected to him. But doing that is actually like more than we can handle. And it's as we see here, it's unbalancing him. It's disturbing. It's perturbing him. In the chat, Eileen's asking, is this similar to when Krishna opened his mouth to Mother Yashoda? Yes, in the Krishna book, 10th canto of Bhagavatam. At one point, Mother Yashoda, Krishna's mother, when he was a little boy, she sees Krishna yawn. She's feeding him. She looks in his mouth and she sees the whole universe. Everything is there. and all the planets and all time and space. And then she sees in one place, there's her holding Krishna. And she's like, oh, wow, okay. I must have imagined that. That's too much. I must have had too much khichdi at breakfast. I mean, I don't know what happened to, whoa, right? So she kind of like shakes it off. And then she goes back to her normal loving mode for Krishna. And he kind of like sprinkles that in, but it's not the primary thing. Otherwise, that's what would comprise the totality of the pastimes in Krishna's childhood. But no, it's just kind of like he throws it in there, but she once again regains her natural love for him and sees him as her son and treats him that way, which is what he wants. They have that loving relationship, mother and son, very unique and very special. So Arjuna is getting all at once, just by Krishna's mercy, what so many yogis and visionaries and philosophers and thinkers have wanted to get, how to see this universe for what it really is and how it's connected to the Supreme and what does that really look like. Then he sees the results of the battle happening in front of him. Verses 26 and 27 is all the sons of Dhritarashtra, the enemies on the other side, along with their allied kings and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dashed to destruction in a blazing fire. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. Arjuna wants to know what the purpose of this form is, this universe as it is. And Krishna replies famously, verse 32. Share this. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kalosmi Lokshayakrit Pravritto Lokans Mahart Miha Pravrittah Vitepitangna Pavishanti Sarveya Vastita Katne Keshuyuta. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I've come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Krishna is showing here his quality is death and time. It's one of his features, of course. Everything comes from him, including time. And so there's this very pivotal battle about to happen, and many people are going to die. And Arjuna is seeing the truth of that all at once, but he's seeing it in connection to Krishna. And it's a lot to really process. And so Krishna is saying, because this is going to happen, this has to happen. Therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Arjuna, can be but an instrument in the fight. See, Arjuna begins Bhagavad Gita by thinking he has to do everything himself and kind of just freaking out about that. And over the course of the Bhagavad Gita, he's realizing who he is, who Krishna is, and what their relationship is. And he's also realizing the nature of his service, that it is a service, and therefore it's empowered. Krishna is saying, be an instrument, be but an instrument in the fight. You know, it's like the painter saying to the brush, I'm going to paint a beautiful painting. Are you ready? I'm going to use you. It's the same thing. Arjuna actually is recognized because he's acknowledged his position and relationship to Krishna. He's acknowledged Krishna's supremacy with love and devotion. He's acknowledged that. He wants to serve. Krishna's pointing out, this is how I'm going to use you. This is what has to happen. This battle has to happen this way. And I want you to be my right-hand man. I want you to be my instrument. I want to paint a picture, and you're going to be my brush. And this is actually our position. It's actually everybody's position. We're either being used by Krishna, or we're trying to live an independent existence. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, like, you see like your finger, right? Your finger, imagine what you've done with this one finger. Pick your thumb, your right thumb. So many things you do with this thumb, so many things you've done in your whole life, so much power, so much potency. This thumb is separated from the body, doesn't have any value. It's just like kind of gross. It's actually just like a lump of nothing. As soon as it's attached to the body, it has tremendous value. This is Krishna consciousness. This is bhakti yoga, the science of reconnecting. We have so much potency. We have so much purpose, but it's in integrity with the whole. And Arjuna he's ready for that. He's actually signed up. I'm ready. I'm ready to be your servant. And so Krishna is showing him the vision of what he wants him to do. But it's true for all of us. We're this thumb on Krishna's body. We're this little corner. We're this brush for the painter. And when we're ready to accept that connection, when we're ready and we freely choose that, we can paint beautiful things. We can do amazing things in service that we can never do on our own. We'll be animated by that will, by that descending power. So that's a point that comes out here. So Arjuna is realizing this, and now he's speaking, but he's still afraid because this universal form is quite intense. He says in verse 36, "O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name." Here we have an indication of the power of Krishna's name, the spiritual power of holy names, names of the Lord, names of the Supreme. And thus everyone becomes attached to you. The perfected beings offer you the respectful homage, and the demons are afraid and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. This word demons, asura in Sanskrit, it's not necessarily like, horns and like, pointy tail and like pitchforks. It's not like that, devils and demons. Those who are averse to their connection with the Supreme. Do they stop being connected to the Supreme because they're averse to that connection? No, you can't be disconnected entirely. You just live in a little sandbox existence that he makes for you. But you can pretend he's not there and you can be averse to him. And that makes one an asura in Sanskrit, somebody who's averse to their connection with the Supreme. But Arjuna is pointing out, okay, like this battle has to happen. There are so many dharmic, spiritual, moral reasons why it has to happen. And I'm seeing how in relationship to you, some people are attracted. Some people become like, a lot of people are just kind of like in the middle, but the very pious are attracted and the very impious are repulsed. They're repulsed by you. They're repulsed by your name, by your form. They're averse to you. They're trying to forget you even exist, trying to forget their relationship with you. Going on. Arjuna is praying and praying. He says, obeisances to you from the front, from behind, from all sides. Oh, unbounded power. You are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading and thus you are everything. In 41 and 42, he has this expression of humility. I'll share these verses. Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you. O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting, he was joking, as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone, and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. Arjuna, he's having this vision of the supreme power and authority of Krishna, who is actually his friend. In his bhakti relationship with Krishna, Arjuna is a friend. He's in what's called Sakya Rasa, the connection, the mood of friendship. They're like brothers. And Arjuna is like feeling embarrassed. Oh my goodness, I've taken you for granted and we've joked around and I've treated you like a friend. And I've seen actually now that you are the Supreme and you have all this power and glory and majesty. You're like the Supreme Father of everyone. We're not equals at all. Friends are equals, but no one's actually technically the equal of the Lord. And so he has this verse, he says, after seeing this universal form, I'm gladdened, but at the same time, my mind is disturbed with fear. Please, therefore, bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead. O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. So we see here that Arjuna's little experiment with curiosity is played out, that there's nothing in the universe that's more attractive than Krishna himself. At the end of it, Arjuna's like, okay, but I want to see you as you are again. And he's going to be refreshed and once again reconnecting to Krishna in his personal bhakti relationship, which for him is sakya, is friendship, this mood of equality. Like if we see the universe and Krishna's like infinite majesty is time and space and everything, we can't have a relationship based on intimacy anymore. It's too opulent, it's too reverential. So all that opulence and reverence, it's useful for helping us to become humble and submissive and to surrender. But the bhakti process, ultimately, it doesn't end in reverence. It's not just about recognizing the authority of the Supreme and his like power and complete like alien nature. He's so much beyond us. No, it goes way beyond that. It's actually about connecting to him personally, which Arjuna already had, but temporarily set aside. And he's going back to that now. And this is the essence of bhakti, is that we remember that Krishna is the source of everything. We remember so that we don't think that we're the source of everything and live our lives as if we're the boss. All this majesty and opulence and reverence, that supports just not living your life as if you're the boss of the universe. Just so you can put your head down, be humble, and surrender. And once we start to do that and practice bhakti, then the intimacy develops. Then the personal reciprocation, that great infinite source of everything, actually takes a role in our lives. One-to-one. It's very sweet. And Arjuna is once again realizing and experiencing that. Krishna says, you've been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. And so Krishna, he restores his original form. Arjuna sees him, becomes composed in mind, and restored to his original nature. Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, this form of mine, this 2 hands, 2 legs, blackish blue, beautiful Krishna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. And then the penultimate, the second last verse of the chapter, Krishna makes this tremendous point. As always, he begins and ends chapters in very important ways. 1154, he says here, Bhaktya. Bhaktya means with bhakti. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya aham evam vidojuna jnatam drashtam tachatvena praveshtam cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So Krishna is again affirming that bhaktya, only by bhakti. This was your qualification for seeing me as I am. This is your qualification for me granting you this favor so you can see me in the universal form, which normally takes so much work and effort and austerity for the yogis to see. And this is your qualification for seeing me that way again. And the last verse, he says, that person who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activity and mental speculation, who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, they certainly come to me. That Krishna is the all-attractive person. He's giving the qualifications, the actual conditions you need to meet to come to him as he is. He gives very simply a few things. Practice pure devotional service, means devotional service with no other purpose but to please Krishna, not to get something for ourselves, not to get some material gain. To work for Krishna, to make them the goal of our life, and to be, he says, friendly to every living being. Interestingly, friendly to every living being. So this bhakti process is aiming at the supreme, and it's all about love of God, and it's incredibly deep, and it doesn't exclude like just being a nice person. Rule number 1, don't be a jerk. Like Krishna doesn't like that. Everybody is where they are. Sometimes people are like rude to you, they do this, to do that. Just be friendly to them. Just do your best to be friendly. That's actually very pleasing to Krishna. And it's one of the 5 or so things he lists here as a condition for coming to him. The rest all really have to do with bhakti, practicing bhakti, working for him, etc. So that's the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We made it through the whole Vishvarup Darshana, the vision of the universal form, this mind-blowing vision of Krishna and all these forms expanded with many eyes, and he's time, he's death, and he's terrifying. Actually, he's still that sweet Krishna. And now we'll take any comments or questions, anything that stood out. This is the chapter that Oppenheimer quoted when he saw the results of the atom bomb test. Mrityu sarvarashchaha. I am death, the destroyer of worlds. That's also in this chapter. That potency also comes from the Supreme. But ultimately behind it is that beautiful person who we can only be qualified to see with the eyes tinged with the salve of pure love, devotion, bhakti. Hare Krishna. Any reflections or questions or comments, anything that stood out?
I think Erin had her hand up at one point.
Yeah, and then I think Nadia. So we'll have Aaron first and then Nadia.
Just before you were chatting about the last 2 verses of the chapter, I was just curious if you could remind me what surrender means. That's a big word, like, or a word with a lot of meaning, and just in context to this, could you just, I know we've
Sure.
talked about it before.
Yeah, it's a huge point, actually. Surrender, one of the words for surrender in Sanskrit is sharanagati. Sharanagati, Sharanagati. And it's described that it's the path of surrender. And that's a path that has several aspects. There's 6 aspects that are described. This is all from Srila Prabhupada's purports and the writings of previous teachers. So the aspects of surrender are to accept what is favorable for Krishna service, to reject what is unfavorable for Krishna service, to recognize and see Krishna as one's maintainer, to see him as one's protector, to become very meek and humble before him, and to surrender oneself completely, to give oneself completely. So the essence, I mean, these are all different aspects of surrender, just to answer your question or kind of like add some substance to an answer. The essence of, I would say, surrender is to freely choose Krishna and to line up our will with his. You know, that, okay, I've been trying to do it my way for so long. I'm gonna try to do it your way, Krishna. I'm gonna go with your instructions. So even the first step of surrender, to accept what is favorable for Krishna's service. Like, there's so many instructions that are given in Bhagavad Gita, like the power of chanting Krishna's name. That came up in this chapter too, how his name is so powerful. That's like it's the primary process. Like, if somebody takes that up a little bit, just a little bit of like, I'm going to try chanting this, that's actually applying the first aspect of surrender, to take up what is favorable in Krishna's service. It's like, I could do anything with that 30 seconds, but I'm going to use that 30 seconds to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I'm going to try to bring my like super like ludicrous jumping around little mind and keep it on that sound vibration for those 30 seconds. If that's what I'm doing, just 30 seconds, that's 30 seconds of surrender. And maybe next week it's 45, right? That's actually applying surrender. It's, I know this is good for me. Krishna says it is. Like, I trust that. I'm going to try to do it, right? And you could say the same thing about all the other aspects. I'm going to try not doing this thing so much, as it's not so good for me. I'm going to try seeing how Krishna is actually maintaining me instead of I'm maintaining myself. I'm not going to put all the pressure on my shoulders that I'm actually maintaining this whole house and like all my whole family, myself. It's like, yeah, I'm doing my work, but actually Krishna he's maintaining me. I can't even make my heart beat. I can't make the blood pump without his help. He's my maintainer. Seeing that, remembering that, is a form of surrender. Because it's like, you got to be a little bit of a devotee to think that way. Otherwise, you can go through life with your chin up in the air and think like you're the best thing to ever happen to the world, greatest thing since sliced bread. But you can't even make yourself, operate biologically without help. So seeing that and admitting that is a kind of surrender. So it basically touches on everything we do in bhakti, but it has to do with like submitting ourselves and choosing him freely. Does that help? Great question. And then we had Nadia, and then we'll have Caitlin.
And we can put those 6 qualities of
Yeah.
surrender in the chat. Aaron, I know that's like, what did he just say?
I'll look them up right now, and then I'll copy and paste in the chat.
Nadia, you want to
Okay,
come up
hi.
here?
Hi, Hare Krishna, Sonia, and everyone.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, well, when you showed us that photo of the unlimited everything, that obviously couldn't even, capture what Arjuna saw, but that was no time to. Like, one of the first things you said was it's like a really big trip or something. And I don't have any experience with psychedelics or LSDs, but my meditation teacher talks about this all the time, how that's like a portal and encourages it, and it like brings disconnects for me because it just doesn't align for like my values. But I'm just curious, like, what you would say to, like, what would you say to the people that are like really big proponents of using psychedelics to see God, and especially now as it's like moving in greater popularization, like what would you say to that?
Yeah, great question. So what I would say is there's no shortcut. You can't crash that party. You know, like you can't just like, we're not going, first of all, we're not going for just seeing the universe as connected to the Supreme. We're going for seeing Krishna as a supreme person. But even just seeing the universe as connected to him, which is what Arjuna saw and was really trippy and weird and far out, is, first of all, we see here is just a side effect of Arjuna's devotional advancement. Because he has that, Krishna grants him, you know, yeah, you want to see that? I'll let you see it. You can't just stumble on seeing the universe as it is by chemically altering your consciousness. It doesn't work that way. The most you can do is you can have some vision about how there's something more, because there definitely is something more. But you still have to do something about that, you know? No matter what you see temporarily, can you remember it? Can you apply it in your life? So rather than trying to chemically alter our states of consciousness and see the universe through weirder and weirder ways, it's better to just take the process that's been given that ingratiates ourselves to the Supreme, and by his support and mercy, get the vision to see whatever we need to see, including, if we're curious, the universe in this way. He can grant us that vision. Why try to do it under our own power, or under the power of some chemical, when the Supreme can actually grant us that vision if we are so inclined to see it? Arjuna, like I said, just like that, Krishna shows him, okay, you want to see, here it is. And the other thing is that at the end, Arjuna is like, okay, wow, that's too much. I'm not interested in this. I want to see you as you are again. It's not even interesting. When you're actually a devotee, when you actually have this connection with Krishna, there isn't actually anything more interesting than that. There's no need to like go on a weird trip. There's nothing actually, there's no cachet in that. So that's kind of a lot of what I would say around it. The other thing is just in a practical way, altering your consciousness chemically. If you start doing that, it's a real slippery slope, because you don't know what's you and what's the substance anymore. You can't trust your experiences. You can't really trust yourself, and you don't really have the vision anymore to have because the bhakti lifestyle, for example, keeps you in sattva, keeps you in the mode of goodness. So your body and your mind, your memory, they work well, and you're healthy. When you start messing with that, with the lower modes of nature, you start messing with your health. You start messing with your mental health. You know, that's not practical. It's not a good way to go. It's difficult to even have good physical and mental health when you start tipping the scales one way or another with mind-altering substances. What to speak of, you're going to start using that to achieve seeing the Supreme. Like, generally what we see is people just become less and less healthy. You know, so don't try to be your own doctor like that. Don't try to let Krishna be the doctor. He recommends chanting Hare Krishna. That's a drug. Srila Prabhupada, he marketed it in the mid-60s when he came to North America, stay high forever by chanting Hare Krishna, to the hippies who were, you know, trying to like do that whole thing. He said, stay high forever by chanting Hare Krishna. And the ones who took to the process gave up the other, like the chemical stuff, and they realized like this is actually the supreme mind-altering thing, but it's not like, you know, something they bought on the street corner. It's actually descended wisdom. It's actually spiritual sound vibration, and it's giving them whatever they needed, including vision and knowledge. Those are all some thoughts on the question. Kind of a classic question.
Thank you. Sorry, can I just ask one more thing? There was just like there's so many times I want God to like show himself to me, like, and I'll like, cardinals has been like a way that I feel like is a sign of something, but like, okay, so this is just like a lot of personal stuff, but if I'm like, oh, like I want to know I'm on the right path, like send me a cardinal if I am. Like sometimes I see a cardinal then like within 5 minutes, but then sometimes I ask for God to send me a cardinal, like weeks go by and I haven't seen a cardinal. But then I'm like, why am I even asking for a cardinal? There's trees, there's breathing, there's air, like those are all signs. Like, what about, like, what would you say about, like, if you wanted to see signs of God, of Krishna, like, well, they're everywhere, but like sometimes it seems more special, sometimes it seems more special than other times.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I could say about that. It's not a bad thing to try to see the Lord, you know. That's a sign of like devotion. But one interesting thing that Srila Prabhupada's guru said, which I'll share here, maybe you can find some merit in it, he said, don't just try to see God. Don't try to see God. Try to act in such a way that he wants to see you. That's kind of what bhakti is about. It's like, rather than figuring it out, like sometimes we do need a sign. Like I'm not discounting that, you know, we need support. But what the bhakti process is actually qualifying ourselves to be seen by the Lord, to be noticed. It's like, oh, this person is actually chanting my name. It's like they're not just asking, they're actually doing something I've asked them to do. They're qualifying themselves for me to show a sign. Maybe it'll be a cardinal, maybe it'll be something you don't even expect. Maybe it'll be somebody showing up and giving you a Bhagavad Gita or whatever, right? Who knows what form Krishna takes in your life, but that's between you and him. He can do whatever he wants, what form he takes. But if we worry less about trying to see him and try to occupy ourselves more with what can I do that will make me relevant for him to see me and notice me, then that's kind of the bhakti mindset. And then we get whatever we need, including vision of him at that point. It's not the only answer I could give, but I think it's an interesting answer. And it does kind of like turn the question on its head a little bit. But yeah, nothing wrong with seeing signs and seeing Krishna in it. That's definitely bona fide, but that's between you and Krishna. But if we take the processes that we've been given and apply them, my experience, you know, and what the wisdom is saying is that you'll get the signs, the signals that you need along the way.
She says, thank you. And
Yeah.
and also I think that if I could just add to that, Shamya, of like that sometimes when we need to build more faith, we need to ask for signs, like asking for that and then seeing it can be like a faith building opportunity for you to like continue to move forward on your path and to keep surrendering and keep doing it, even though it's easier perhaps to see God by doing a psychedelic drug. It's like you pop a pill and you get to have a realization versus doing the harder work of sitting down and being still and chanting or whatever your practice is, right? And but when these little things happen where you see signs, it's like that we call them Christian miracles or divine whispers. It's like, oh yeah, like this is real. And Maya was making me forget, and like this is real, and like gives you that fuel to keep going. So
Yeah, it's something this.
Yeah.
One of your questions, what would you say to a meditation teacher that's recommending psychedelics? I wouldn't associate with that teacher. I have no idea. To me, it's disqualifying. It's like that on it. You know. I mean, also not. I have a friend, and when I was at the ashram a long time ago, and he's gone into that, going to like psychedelic retreats and stuff. And I talked to him on the phone about it and what comes of it. And usually he just has like a week of insomnia. There's about all he gets out of it. Yeah. He can't talk for a few days and then he has a week of insomnia.
Right. Well, there's something that implores people to do it because people are doing it. Yeah. And, you know, it's an interesting, Shami, maybe you can speak about this of like how to remain like non-judgmental about it, right? And to like honor their choices and I'll like to not like take the path of superiority. Like what I'm doing is a more direct way to God, or, you know, like my practice is bona fide and yours isn't, and you're cheating, and, you know, how to actually like to not take that mood, but to really honor yourself in your own choice. And maybe someone here has done a psychedelic drug and like, that's okay. You know, it's like, so, and right. So like we, like you just said, Krishna says that we want to be friendly to all living beings. Right. So it's,
I mean, I did it as a teenager. It didn't do me any good.
Steve, yeah, he did it as a teenager, but now he's here and now he's chanting the holy name.
That was the pattern in the 60s when the first devotees of Srila Prabhupada came, for sure. They were all experimenting different kind of consciousness raising practices, potential practices, and so like being friendly to all living entities, it's like it's not necessary to being friendly to other people doesn't mean that we have to do everything they do and have the same values as they do. That's not friendliness. That's just people pleasing. It's necessary to have your own boundaries. It's like whatever you're convinced about, whatever conviction you have, whatever your beliefs are, that's between you and Krishna. That's between you and the Supreme. It's a sacred thing. You're not meant to just sacrifice that for anyone else. the same time, it's not licensed to be a jerk. Like I gave the description of it, like when Krishna says be friendly, it's just the first rule. Like you learn it in kindergarten, like just be nice, play nice with other people. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to think they're living their life the way you would want them to live their life or the way you would want to live your life, but don't be rude. Just be nice. And that's enough. Just be kind. Don't look down on them, because if you're doing that, they can tell, and it's not good for you either. It'll get in the way of your relationship with Krishna. Even if your path is better, don't look down on them. You can be following a superior path without being superior, high-minded, arrogant. It's not necessary to do that. Like Srila Prabhupada goes to the West, he's dealing with all these like drugged out weirdos they don't know what's what, trying to figure out the supreme. He's coming from like this high level of spiritual realization. He goes all the way down here, starts serving them food, cleans up after them, takes care of them. Was he ever like, oh my God, you guys are so out of control. Do you even know who I am? No, it wouldn't have worked. They wouldn't listen to him. He was just who he was. He loved them. He cared for them. He saw that they had a better way. I can help these people. He offered them the option, and those who wanted it took it and appreciated his patience, appreciated his amazing qualities and Bhakti's amazing qualities, and they took it. And those who didn't want it, and that's okay, they weren't ready. The other thing I find helps is that taking a long view. Everybody has time. It doesn't have to happen right this second. It's not even happening right this second just for me. Like I'm also going through a process. So if somebody's in a place where they're like, they need to become convinced there is something more, maybe for them taking some psychedelic will like expand their mind to the point they can recognize there is something more. And then they can set that aside and then start doing something about that truth by approaching that something more, by praying. But there may be some other practice they take up. That's like maybe that's all they do in this life. They just realize there's something more. And then next life they pick up where they left off. That's not really up to us. That's between them and Krishna. And we can do our best to support them to take tools to accelerate their path, but it's not really our journey, it's their journey. And when we take that long view and see how I'm on a journey too. And I have a past too. Like I was doing things that weren't necessarily the best and I wouldn't do anymore. And I've grown, so perhaps they can too. Then it's a little bit easier to be not looking down your nose, not feeling superior, and not kind of like stuck in, the arrogance or judgmental, or how dare you do this dumb thing? It's like hurting you or whatever. We've all done stupid things. Let's be honest.
May I interject something?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. And there's also, hold on, honey, just to throw this the other direction, there's also theories and studies, and I know there's some truth to it. I just couldn't say where I saw this, but these psychedelic elements have been around forever. So, there's theories that swamis and whoever ate this stuff by accident and had, epic religious experiences that who knows. And then I was just Googling and trying to find what I actually heard the first time. And then it brought up Soma, which I don't know anything about, but I'm just kind of curious. Maybe next time, and I'll comment on it finally. But I'm kind of curious about the connection with that too.
Yeah, Soma Rasa is mentioned in different scriptures. It's available in the heavenly planets. It's not available in this age. It's not particularly relevant because it doesn't really necessarily give spiritual realization. It just increases your lifespan and kind of increases your material capacity. Our whole thing isn't to just figure out like, what if somebody took something that gave them a vision? We want reproducibility. We want it to replicate it in our own life. In 2023 in North America, how can I, without chemicals, have lasting spiritual realization and change in my own character and my own trajectory? So that's what Bhagavad Gita is aiming at, and that's what our practice is aiming at. Otherwise, yeah, so many people have ideas of like, there's a lot of people out there like trying to like, give their own take on where spirituality or mantras or swamis and stuff came from. It's like, okay, that's cool, but for me, I just take it as it is and I apply it, and it's worked in my life. I think we had a hand from Caitlin.
Yeah, there was another question.
And then, yeah, we've had a lot of questions today. That's great. Or comments. Go ahead.
I mean, it was a long chapter. We really went through it. I also
Yeah.
know that we're over time, but really quickly, and I'll put more in the chat too. I really resonated, Aaron, with what you shared, because what I was going to share about the words in verse 33. I think for me, when I read this the first couple times, I was again taking words as I know them and not necessarily as they are. So like where Christian says, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you can be an instrument in the fight. I really appreciated that analogy with the painter and the brush, because I think for me, the first times I read that, I was like, oh, is that like not free will? Like, where is that in this sort of, as someone who went to many religious schools of learning, the thought of predestined, there's just, you're on this path and that's it. But in reality, I really appreciate the conversation that we've had tonight around, seeing it in a different way, that I think is been really helpful for me to have that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that it helped you. That's a nice verse 33 about being used as an instrument. Yeah.
One last thing, Shami, I wanted to just share that something that's come up in the Sage group, the Wisdom of the Sages Sage group that I lead, that many in the chat and here are in, and something that someone shared in it last week was about how she feels like she's in a slow dance with Krishna. So like she's just like slowly learning to dance with Krishna, and like so her path is just moving at a different pace than someone who's like doing the cha-cha with Krishna, or or whatever, like another form of dance, and all of our dances, all of our journeys are at a different pace, and then that's okay, right? And like you said at one point, like it doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing because it's their journey, it's not ours, right? And so like to not like get superior or feel less than, right, on the other side of that. And so we can have a slow dance with Krishna, we can be doing insert the other dance modality that I don't really know, and but yeah, it just felt like a nice way to close.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just important to focus on what our next steps are, and doing that, and to be in association of those who are emulating where we want to be going. Keep them in mind and follow them. And yes, we had Eileen, is it? Yeah, you're good. Okay, great. Well, we did it. Another week of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11. The Vishvarup Darshan, the universal form. All right. So we'll pause here and we'll stop the recording. And then anybody who wants to stay on, we're going to recite the Sri Damodar Ashtakam, beautiful recitation of Krishna's childhood pastimes, and we'll offer ghee lamps. Yeah, you may dance the cha-cha or crump for Krishna if you wish. These are all options. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai.
Bye.
Hare Krishna. You can
Hare
end the
Krishna.
recording.